Be kind to yourself. That's the flow on from last week, where there was a sense of enough. Then this week it flowed into unwrapping the enough and how we see ourselves in the next step going forward, which can be quite tricky. The essence that showed up 3 times in a row before the final one, which really pulls it together, showed. It was Black-Eyed Susan, the Australian bush essence, which is to do with impatience, on the go, overcommitted, constant striving, which is that being on the wheel, going round and round. The positive is ability to turn inward and be still, slowing down and finding inner peace. And that inner peace needs to be with the consideration of be kind to yourself. We can be in such a hurry, we forget to be kind to ourselves in the process, and that showed up this week. In the process of being impatient and overcommitted, when very big decisions need to be made, we can shoot ourselves in the foot. In all 3 cases, one way or another, that this came up for. In the first place, being so over it with the enough, to race to an end at a great cost of not going to self, realizing what other people want and what they're offering, being able to sit in it, in the process of being kind to yourself and saying, that doesn't meet my requirements. And to then put forward what does and leave the other party with it to reconsider. This is classic negotiation, where if you're going for a job application, it's very important to work out what the lay of the land is before you accept the contract. Be kind to yourself. And then the same essence came up, but not knowing how to read it, it went to, I don't know what to do, where to go, a sense of what is the next step, when in fact the process of enough truly had arrived to an inner peace, to an ability to consider oneself first. And what was really online was slowing down, finding that inner peace. And an aspect of it was not to be prejudiced, which is not to be prejudiced against yourself. But this prejudice was delicious because it was not being prejudiced on feeling that only so much can come your way, to not be prejudiced, to allow the best come forward, to have life be so good that you've never felt happier, you've never felt freer, you've never felt more in the ability to calmly speak how you feel with a calmness that falls nicely on other people's laps or consciousness. Sometimes we can miss the point. This came up for someone who was seeing themselves in the possible worst scenario, trying to figure out what was going on and am I being like this or am I being like that? Instead of going, no, that's what's really showing up is that you are not like that. So being able to see the contrast, you can actually then say, no, I'm actually not like that. So how do we fall into the prejudice of thinking we are the habits that we saw in others that we didn't like? In being able to see them, you then have the contrast to say, that is not my preference, that's not my choice going forward. And to sit with it rather than quickly come to the conclusion, oh, that's just like this parent or this sibling or this boss or that friend. In seeing it and going to inner self, the preference of who you are is what gets exercised. It's tricky sometimes to work these things out, but that's why I'm calling this share, be kind to yourself. In doubt, bring the best to yourself. People who are nasty, if you want to call them that, they know they're being nasty. You're not nasty, so be kind to yourself. Come forward with the best and don't be prejudiced by limiting what may come your way. Allow it to show up, like I've said before, show me, and not be prejudiced when it comes. So someone wasn't feeling excited anymore about their life and what they were doing, and at the end of the day, it was to do with when you're so busy and so running with everything, it's hard to feel the excitement when it falls on you to such an extent that all you feel is the busyness. And a sense of impatience also showed, and the aspect of forgetting why you love doing what you're doing. Regardless of what we do or how we interact, we are of service to each other, and there's an excitement in being of service. At the end of the day, to know you've been of service, something sits well. It doesn't have to be big. It can be patting a dog on the street, saying hello to someone. There's a lot in those things. We're not talking big, we're talking even considering wellness for all that is around you is of service. There's joy, and there is a deep excitement in that because it's true. So it came up to do with good guardianship, to be a good guardian for your life, for the items you're making decisions on, good stewardship for all that is around you. And that good stewardship showed towards the end of the week, because we can be so kind and so considerate towards another and how they may feel that the voice is lost of how you are going to be kind to yourself. And you can feel in a place where you feel there is nowhere to move but to just keep pace in the same way ad infinitum, because you're standing in the solid space of how this other being feels, that feels immovable. And what showed up, and there is no card to read this week, no essence. The essence that was pulled, and just before starting to share, I went to pull an essence to see what may be shared here, and the same one came up. It's the placebo bottle, which reflects all that I've so far shared. How you see it is what you're going to get. Be kind to yourself. The placebo was very powerful here, because so far the placebo was, it's what it is, can't be shifted, this is what I'm doing, I'm not really happy about it. Yet at the core there was such passion for a life desired to be lived. It was very strong. So the ability to see what you really want and know that you can look at what that is because enough is enough. And work out a way that is approachable, that you can sit at the table with another and say, this is what I've come up with, which is generous to us both and viable for us both in terms of moving forward. To hold me where I am while you get on with your life is not a fair, viable solution. Placebo is so powerful. Everyone this week saw life in a certain way. And being able to dismantle and view it in another way is the placebo. If you say you can, you can. If you say you can't, you can't. So be kind to yourself. Go for the best. See what can be brought forward that has a solution, both in good stewardship and consideration for others. Do not leave yourself out of the equation. And very often these things need to be decided before making the next move. Sit with self, find what it is, see what can be offered and how it can be spoken kindly. Catch you next week.